Hey, what's going on YouTube? How's everyone doing today? We should be live right now for the next installment of Feedback Friday here from EDM Tips. My name's Neil Erickson, as many of you currently watching already know. I'm going to be pulling up a bunch of tracks submitted by our EDM Tips students directly from our Facebook group Feedback Friday thread. And for the next hour, we're going to be listening to tons of great music and getting some top tips on how to take these tracks to the next level. So whether that has to do with the songwriting and note choices, maybe something along the lines of like the composition, or maybe the mix down and processing, or even the mastering, whatever it is, we're going to touch on it, find something in there to make your track better. So if you guys are tuning in, as a recurring, participant, welcome back to the stream. Thanks so much for swinging by and for sticking with us as we got the whole thing sorted. We should be completely good to go now with high quality streams, no dropouts and everything. We'll keep our fingers crossed this continues, but Will and I successfully ran this on Monday and everything was looking nice and clear with crisp audio as well. So before I get in, also want to just give a quick welcome and shout out to anyone who is dropping by this stream for the first time. Stoked you guys made it. A little bit about this. So this Feedback Friday stream that we've been going on is kind of an addition to the existing Feedback Friday threads that I said we've been running in EDM Tips for a while. If you're interested in getting feedback from your, on your tracks, whether it's from other peers and other producers, or even directly from us as, the mentors in the industry and stuff, check out some of the courses from EDM Tips if you aren't already enrolled. You can find out more information about those programs in the comments of this stream. If you just go to the YouTube video, check out the comment section, you'll see some links to a few different courses that we have. If you access any of them, or if you enroll in any of those courses, you'll be admitted into the EDM Tips Academy Facebook group. And here it is right now. Every single week, we post this Feedback Friday thread, and it gets a ton of activity. As you can see, there are 210 comments here. Luckily that doesn't mean there are 210 tracks, but there are a lot of tracks being submitted. I've got them all queued up here, which you can see is a lot of tracks. And everyone's responding, jumping in, getting some good feedback and stuff. We see tons of replies. Highly recommend checking it out if you're serious about taking your productions to the next level. At the end of the stream, we'll talk a little bit more about those. But with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and get into the Feedback Friday reviews here. So like I said, if you're interested in getting feedback, the best way is, submit your tracks directly to this thread. And you do have to be part of the EDM Tips Academy courses to have access to this. That being said, a couple of times per stream, every single stream, I'm going to be calling on the users in this chat, asking for some links for some live submissions. We did find out on Monday that if you just try to drop like the full link in the chat, it's not going to work because YouTube filters a lot of those out. So what I'm going to have you do is, if you do want to submit a track, get this link ready. Just copy everything after the .com, whatever it might be. So I know this one has like a lot of the Facebook tags and stuff, but just copy everything after .com. If you drop that in the chat, I should be able to queue it up easily enough. So with that, I see we've got a couple of returning people. Specifically want to call out a Jike here who hung with us through the entire stream last time, waiting for some feedback on his track. And unfortunately, we didn't quite get there, but rest assured, I've got that queued up. We are going to be good to go today. Excuse me. And I guess with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and get things started here. I'm seeing actually one quick question from the Leaky Feeder here. I put my tracks up a few weeks ago. Is it guaranteed to get played at some point, or is it just the best ones? Great question. So these tracks are not picked based on quality whatsoever. We've got a whole range of skill here, from people that are posting their first tracks onto people that have been producing for 5 to 7 years and are continuously sharing their music. The way I pick these is I just simply go in order of priority of people who have submitted on these posts. So in general, I'll just go, whoever submitted first gets queued up first. However, if you are, say queued up for this given stream and we just don't get time to get to you today, I have a separate list. I knock your name up to the top of the list. So you'll see this particular first one here from Mufi. He didn't actually submit till a little bit later on down in this kind of thread closer to the bottom. But because he was here all last week, because he'd submitted last week and we didn't get a chance to get to him, he's now at the top of the list. So if you want feedback, just make sure you're continuously submitting to every week's new Feedback Friday thread. I don't have an ongoing list of links from previous streams. So it does need to be fresh music. You do need to be actively submitting. But if you are, I can pretty much guarantee that you're going to be, listened to and get some feedback within at least 2 weeks, if not within that first week. So hopefully that answers the question. If you guys have any comments at any point, any questions during the stream, drop them in the chat. I've got this thing rocking off to the side. I can see what you guys are saying. With that, guys, let's dive in. So, like I said, this first track is from Mufi, Never Knew That Love. I don't know that I've heard anything from Mufi before here, so this is going to be a first-time listener for me. I'm pretty excited to see what we've got. If at any point you guys are listening and you hear something that you might suggest being improved in the kick, whether it's in the track, whether it's something like, you know, a fatter kick or more saturation or a different melody line, drop it in the chat. A lot of the people tuning in have their tracks up for this review today. So it's going to help them out. It's going to help you out as you learn to train your ear and listen out for, you know, what a track really needs to succeed. And it just helps make it an awesome little party here. So let's go ahead and get this party officially rolling with Mufi's Never Knew That Love. Really nice groove right from the start, got me bouncing and moving. The hi-hat, the timing of that hi-hat's like really perfect. It's not strictly on the grid, it's just that little bit off and it gives us that nice swing. Well done. Those like chords that are kind of playing throughout in the middle. Awesome groove, awesome tonality, but they're kind of central in the mix. I think some hefty width on that and maybe a little bit of extra saturation will help give this track a lot of energy, a lot of body in the mid-range for sure. Let's see what we got. Nice. I like that switch up to just the kind of bass groove. It gets like nice and down, a little dirty for a second. I think the great thing about what makes this bass work is that we've been hinting that rhythm with the chords the entire track leading up to this. Very, very nice. I think the one other thing I might suggest here is like in this final section in the build, maybe try changing up the chords because otherwise we've just got that same progression kind of playing the entire time. It becomes just a little bit too predictable. Let's see what we got near the end of the track here. Nice little bounce. Cool. Guys, let's give it up for Mufi with Never Knew That Love. Really killer track to start out today's stream. To just reiterate, let's get those instrumentals a little bit louder, a little bit wider, and then maybe create a little bit of variation in that piano chord. And otherwise, you've got a grooving track, good arrangement, good writing. Guys, let's give him some love in the chat. Let's keep it going. On to the next one. We have, let's see what it is. Michael Stenar with Walking on Mars, the Culinetti cut. Ooh, interesting. Is this something to do with Mr. Allen, Embarrassed Arts himself here? Maybe a little bit of a collaboration of a degree. We'll see here. But let's go ahead and get this going. I'm gonna be playing, listening to about 1.5 to 2 minutes of the track, dropping my comments in. Let's see what we got. Very nice sense of atmosphere from the start. Maybe make it a little bit louder in those percussion layers. So that kick is really, really nice. It's got some good body, some good power to it. The current problem is that the rest of the percussion is just a little too quiet against that kick. So I'm not getting that feeling of groove that I really need. So I just bring up the percussion in volume. Pretty simple fix. Great melodic riff right there. That's nice. I think this lead that's playing in there could definitely use some significant saturation, really beef it up. Like, it's the whole idea that we're walking on Mars. Like, you're walking on a giant planet and you know, without buildings, without other people around, you're gonna be feeling pretty small. So everything that you're experiencing in this mix should be huge, kind of to match that sense of atmosphere that you've got here. Love the groove between the kick and that melody there. Yeah, definitely more brightness and saturation on that lead. That's going to make a huge difference. And in general, I'd say maybe some like parallel compression or just some added saturation and volume on your drums. I think they're getting lost just a little bit. Very nice. Let's see what we got kind of going on going into this like bridgey section before the last drop. So I really like that new rhythm that you've got introduced. I think we need like a little bit more of a transition, so maybe like consider some washout reverb or increase like the release or decay time of your synth or something to kind of build up the energy before we cut back to the drop right here. Awesome. All right, guys, let's give it up for Michael Stenar here with Walking on Mars. Shout out to Alan for dropping some feedback here that clearly made enough of a difference to get a shout out in the name as well. Yeah, great track here, good vibes. Love the kind of atmosphere, just the general direction of this track definitely feels like I'm walking on Mars. So killer track here. Just want to address something in the chat real quick. So seeing from Dinesh, can we still submit songs? So while technically speaking, yes, it's not too late. Like if you are part of that Facebook Friday or the EDM Tips Academy Facebook group, then yes, you can go submit. I'm going to be honest with you guys. We have so many tracks to get through today that I don't know that we're going to, be able to take any new submissions at this point. But, stay on the lookout for the next week's Feedback Friday thread. Definitely drop your track in there. And, even if you want to drop it in right now, if we don't get to it, that means that you'll at least be on my priority list for next time. So definitely feel free to make your way into that Facebook group. Drop another submission there if you want to here. Awesome. Okay, let's give it up for Michael here. And moving on, we've got Sanctuary Sky with Damaged. Let's see what we got. Really nice texture. I think I want a little bit more high end to start this mix out. It feels a little bit mid-range focused, so maybe bring out like either some of the reverb or like the pluckiness of the guitar to start. Lots of atmosphere here. I am noticing a little bit of phasing going on in some of the wide atmospheric textures. Just double check this mix in mono. Make sure that you're getting the strength that you want to while you're folded down to mono. I love the percussion, like the vibe of the instrumentation of every element in here fits it perfectly. Like that vocal is reinforced by the texture of these percussion and that sitar-like instrument going on in the background. Really cool switch up here. Get a lot of saturation, a lot of saturation on that bass that starts this section out, because you need it to be super full and huge to kind of take over everything else that was there before. Really nice chords, love those, yeah. I think bring up that kick a lot, give it some hefty beef, and maybe consider adding some extra percussion layers in here to help give us a little bit more solidity as well. So these synths right now, these plucky synths, sound really nice. They've got some great texture to them, but they're sitting a little too high in the octave range by themselves, so the mid-range feels just a little bit empty right now. Maybe consider layering in another pluck layer that's just an octave lower to help add a little bit more body there. I can't get, yeah, the chords again in this one, really nice chords. You clearly spent some good time with some creative writing. We're getting more than just our standard bass triads and stuff in there. So yeah, big props to that. Really nice track. Again, those vibes are just off the point with this one, Sanctuary Skies. So let's give it up for him in the chat. If there's anything you guys have to suggest that might help improve this track, take it to the next level, let's drop it in there. Let's see what we got. Otherwise, we're going to keep this party going with Johnny Hales. Let's talk. Just a quick note here, guys. If you're tuning in, I know there's like a little bit of a lag between when I say something and when you guys see it, such is the nature of live. But if your track comes up and you want me to skip ahead to a certain point, just drop that timestamp in the chat somewhere and we'll get to it. All right, so here we go with Johnny Hales. Let's talk.
I guess that you forgot the past. I see you happy in your life.
This is nice.
And I don't see that you feel hurt or that you
like the reverb on that vocal is top.
Talk about love. Let's talk about love. Tell me about your life. And then you girl, can we talk about love?
I think we could get like a little more stereo width in our instrumentals kind of across the board.
And then you girl, can we talk about love? Let's talk about love. Tell me about your life. And then you girl,
yeah, banger indeed. Absolutely embarrassed starts, Mr. Allen. Love the reverb on your high textures, like the vocal in this pluck. I am hearing just like a tiny bit of like muddiness in that bass line, like a very tiny amount. So like, you know, a tiny duck, like half a decibel to a decibel in that like 150, 180 hertz range will probably help out. Maybe also get a little bit more plate reverb on the deep bass line itself. And this needs to be a very subtle amount. You'll need to make sure that you're EQing out the low end of that reverb so that it doesn't build up. But it'll help add that little bit of extra brightness and energy to the track.
talk about love. Let's talk about love. Tell me about your life. And then you girl, can we talk about
maybe a little bit more brightness on the vocals too to help them cut through that mix with just a tiny bit more clarity.
And then you girl, talk about love. Let's talk about love. Tell me about your life.
The drums also. That's one thing I think that we could do is beef up those drums a lot, get some saturation, a little bit more parallel compression on them so that they just really pop out in front of the mix, like really smack and get people moving. Man, what a beautiful track. We're gonna just listen to this one out. We only got 13.
Let's talk about love.
Whew. Guys, let's give it up for Johnny here with just an absolutely stellar track. Johnny, just to reiterate, focus on bringing the high end of those vocals out a little bit more. Get that bassline reverb to smack through and cut through just a tiny bit more and maybe reduce the mud. And then finally, get those instruments nice and wide. You've got a certified banger on your hands here. All right. Up next, we've got Silver Fox with 3. Let's jump straight in and see what we got. Really nice pad atmosphere here. I think to make it a little bit more effective, add some other sort of like Foley, whether it's like a noise layer, like something like a creak, just some sort of like other high-end atmosphere that's not necessarily tonal to help give us a little bit more ear candy to the intro. Groove on this bass with the hi-hats, really nice. I think we just need that bass line a lot louder, so bring that bass line up probably anywhere from like 6 to 10 decibels. Actually, I should say more like 3 to 7. But add a little bit of saturation to that too, maybe some high-end coloring EQ boost to bring out a little bit more of that plucky texture. As you come out of that drop, consider some sort of like effects transition, like a whoosh, or something of the sorts to help connect those sections just a little bit more. I like this new melody that's just come in. Right there at that moment, let's just pause and talk about that. So previously, like, you know, your bass line's been moving around, you have that steady chord progression, and right here, you followed that, right? Like your bass line continued to change. Try out, instead of changing to that fourth bass line note at the end of that, you know, phrase, try sitting on that third note. So instead of like going like da 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 da, just stay at that higher note, the da 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 of that bass. And by staying on that one note, you're gonna end up like feeling just like a little bit more tension that'll help carry us into that next section. See what we got going on near the end of the track, or I guess in this transition moment. Let's get some sort of like riser, like a whooshing sound that comes in to help signal that we're about to get back into the drop, and that'll just connect your energy a lot smoother so that, you know, we're going from this low energy, nice kind of mid-range section in the break to bringing it up in energy, and then we get to that drop. So that kind of reverse whooshing sound is going to bring you up smoothly to that, as opposed to just kind of jumping up to this point from down here. Awesome. All right, guys, let's give it up for Silver Fox with 3. Up next, let's see who we got. DJ Friends with One Touch Tester. Now, I'm 99% certain, correct me if I'm wrong, but DJ Friends here is Mr. Jike in the chat, who had stuck with us the entirety of the last stream, trying to get his music heard, but unfortunately we just couldn't get the link sorted out. So I got it queued up here. I'm stoked to see what we've got. Hopefully you're tuning in with us, but let's see what we got. That is not it. Let's try this again.
What's up, baby? I just need one touch. I'm just waiting, you don't need no rush. I just want to take
Love the Moonbathon vibe here, for sure.
But I'm gonna make you crazy. I just need one touch. I'm just waiting, you don't need no rush. I just want to take your hand, baby. After that part, I'm gonna make you.
So those chords sound just like a little bit lagged right now behind the beat. Try nudging them forward just a tiny bit in space, and I think we're gonna end up with a little bit more active movement here.
One touch, one touch.
You know, one thing, try speeding the BPM of this whole track up a couple. That might give this track like the movement and energy it really needs to get the dance floor moving. Right now the groove is spot on, but it seems a little chill, so it'd be tough to like really get people dancing and moving.
Keep it real, niggas hating, they owe me cause they know I'm real when they know I got money. Yeah. No, 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 no. Yeah.
I really like that like 808 that you have going on in there too. That fits the vibe really nicely.
One touch.
Maybe bring up the vocals just like a little bit, like a decibel in volume.
One touch.
And try side chaining some of those harmonic elements like your chords to that lead vocal so that the lead just cuts through that little bit extra.
One touch. Her feelings, she hides. Her dreams, she can't find. She's losing her mind. She's feeling.
The other thing I'd say is that the mix sounds just a little bit wet with reverb. Try reducing that reverb channel just a little bit in wetness, and I think you're gonna bring everything a little bit more present and a little bit more forward in the mix, which is perfect for this kind of like Moonbathon pop crossover genre.
Dominant. I pull up on anybody talking shit of me. So don't worry, baby girl, just have fun with me. So let's go, let's go. Now we going to party. You're walking, baby girl, I'll pick you up in my Rari.
Awesome. All right, guys, let's give it up for DJ Friends here with One Touch Tester. Yeah, just vibes and grooves are spot on. Let's just focus on picking up that pace a little bit more to really get the energy flowing on the dance floor. All right, up next, we've got Ninja Dog with Unison Trance. Ninja's been another one that's been with us for a while. He is recently a full member of the masterclass and has just been crushing it. So let's see what we've got going on with Unison Trance. Keep doing that. Sorry, Michael, I'm giving you the tease. 30 seconds. All right, I'm skipping ahead. Here we go. Very nice, fast beat pace here. I'm feeling it. Gotta like transition after that like low-key chill song. I'm like high energy here now. Oof, that melody works really nice. Bring it up in volume a lot so that it really cuts through. Oh, whoops, I must have accidentally paused it. There we go. I love that evolution in the sound too. Way to switch up the sound so that it stays fresh despite having the same melody. At the end of your phrases, just one thing to call out, Ninja has just absolutely crushed it. You guys might notice at the end of every like 8-bar phrase, we add this one extra layer of detune so that it switches up and creates this moment of tension on the lead right before getting to that next phrase. Keeps it fresh throughout. Absolutely killer job here, Ninja. I'd say during this drop, let's bring everything up in volume. It felt just a little bit flat because the atmospheres were so like powerful going into that drop. One other thing I'd actually recommend, probably bring the atmospheres down just a little bit in volume and maybe saturate your leads and some of the other mid-range elements a little bit more so that we have a little bit more of a present mix. Right now, everything feels just like a little bit too far back. Awesome. Yeah, this is a vibe for sure. Seeing a lot of love in the chat for this one. Ninja, you found it here. Like, way to get it. Absolutely. Yeah, huge shouts. Again, Ninja's just been crushing it in the masterclass. So if you guys like what you've heard here and you want to get something closer to it, check out the masterclass for sure. We've got a link to it in the video of this, or in the comments of this video. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about the end here. But man, what an awesome track here, Ninja. Way to absolutely crush it here with Unison Trance. I think we're all pretty stoked for the official release of this one. All right. Up next here, we've got Danny Austin with Play Me the Song. I will do exactly that, Danny. Let's see what we got. I think the vibes are off the charts right from the start. I love that like high-end string that you've got. The tone of the piano works. I am noticing that the key of the vocals is out of key with the piano. So that's creating a little bit of, or not a little bit, it's creating some pretty significant tension going on. I would try re-pitching the vocals or just your chords in general so that they're sitting a little bit more evenly, or rather sitting in the same key. The arrangement, the groove, and everything else is on point. So as soon as you get those vocals in key, like this track's gonna like snap right into place of being a like really strong track. I like this section. Very nice vibe with the suspended string. Maybe beef up the bass, get some more saturation, a touch of reverb on there to help fill up our atmosphere there. Danny, see, we got you in the chat. What's going on? Yeah, that groove between the kick and the bass is on point. Like they're hitting, like it starts every downbeat with them hitting together. So we have that like moment of strength, that moment of kind of like release and clarity. And then as that measure goes on, we kind of deviate and we get that, you know, syncopated pattern. So we have this constant like with the kick, deviate from the kick, with the kick, deviate from the kick. And that back and forth gives us a really awesome sense of groove. So just killer job with that, Danny. I think that new pluck that came in right here is also out of key with the bass line there. So step one, figure out the key of your vocals. And like I at this point, because you have enough other instrumentals, I'd probably recommend re-pitching the vocals to then match it. And then step two, go to like this moment with that new pluck and then try to re-pitch that too so that it's hitting the same set of notes as your bass line is. Cool. Let's see what we got kind of near the end of the track here really quickly. The groove of that core lead works really well with everything. The echo or the delay on it starts to fall a little bit out of sync, so maybe either find a way to get that echo to sync up in time with the rest of your track, or just reduce the volume of it so it's not stealing as much of our attention away. Awesome. All right, guys, let's give it up for Danny with Play Me the Song. Again, yeah, groove, the vibes, sound selection on point. Number one thing, let's just get the keys among those different layers working together. All right. Up next here, we've got, oh, you know what? I already queued this one up. All right, so another from Sanctuary Sky with Damage. So we already listened to that one, so we'll just skip ahead here. We got Jimmy Knees with Panther Cap. Looks like a work in progress, but that is quite all right. That's what this Feedback Friday is for, you know, so that you guys can turn your work in progresses to even better tracks. So let's see what we got from Jimmy Knees here. Very nice vibe. Maybe bring up the like high end of those pads and atmospheres just a little bit. I think the low end and like the fundamental frequency and body is right where it needs to be. The high end's just sitting a little too far back. It creates an awesome sense of depth, but we're not able to make out the textures quite enough. Like that little drum and bass rhythm starting to cut through.
The Panther Cup.
Maybe actually bring up the volume of some of those percussion layers that really give us that D&B, you know, vibe and groove. Bring that up in volume just a little bit. It's like right now that kick and that snare are like sitting like way up here, and then all of your other percussion are kind of back here in the mix. For like a really tight kit, you want those to be closer. Like a little bit of variations there is nice, but we still want those percussion a little bit more forward because they're really the ones that are responsible for that fast-paced groove. Love that kind of moment, that pause in the beat, that swell that you have coming in right before that. Let's see. That, bring that up in volume a decent amount so that it like, you know, it kind of sucks us like really up front, and then we cut straight to that next beat. I think another big thing, so like those atmospheres, the high end texture needs to come up. I think the other like melodic style elements need to come up in volume a bit. I know that with this like liquid drum and bass, it's more about the atmosphere and the drums are, you know, the thing that's supposed to be up front. We still need to be able to like tangibly like latch onto it to a degree. So I think bring up those melodies a little bit more with some, you know, a little bit of volume. I don't think they need too much saturation per se because your mix sounds very full and warm. It's mostly just leveling.
Almost no muscarine. So the salivation effect on the mascara. So I have a
really like that vocal. Bring that out as well, like maybe a little bit more kind of high end, maybe a little bit of delay and echo at times to give it some extra character. All right. Yeah, really nice vibes. I'm such a fan of those drum and bass drum grooves, so anyone that's pulling those things off, huge props to you. I know from experience, like drum and bass drums are difficult because you have to fit so many hits into such a short amount of time, and it still needs to sound clean. So really, really great stuff here. Jimmy Knees with Panther Cap. Up next, let's keep it going here. We have got Andy with Jazz Bar Techno. All right, just based on the name here, I'm expecting something pretty unique and something pretty cool here. So let's see what we've got going on. Those like fluttery pads that come in are perfect. I'd say at this point, like bring up the drums a lot more. Those drums are just probably a good 10 to 15 decibels too quiet in the mix. So I think during this section, like really nice vibes, good groove, good atmosphere. I think we needed something a little more coming in, like a melody or a variation in the chords or like a new bass line. So we're getting into like up to this 1 minute mark and like it's very kind of atmospheric, backgroundy at this point, which is totally fine if like that's what your intention is. But if you're wanting to create something that like hooks people quickly, that has like playability on Spotify, that sort of stuff, we need to come in a little sooner with something more tangible there. Vibe of this section is awesome. Love the reverb, love the splash there. So this section, okay, just really quickly, like amazing job with this drop. Let's talk about why that works. So you guys might have noticed here, all we really have is like the kick, that kind of like sustained chord and bass, and then those like little fluttery pads off to the side. Right? So why does that work, right? Why is like, why does that make for an effective drop when, most of the time we're used to hearing, hey, let's fill out the frequency spectrum and all that? Because throughout this entire track up to this point, we've had those high-end hi-hats and patterns going. Right, like no matter where I click, we've got that high end. So we have steady high end for like a solid like minute and a half almost. And then for the first time ever, we get just that kind of deeper texture. And it creates this awesome moment of contrast where it says, hey, wait a second, let's stop focusing on the whole picture and just zone in on this like little bass line, the kick, and those fluttery chords. And man, is that an effective technique. So give that a shot if this is your genre for sure. One of my personal favorite things, because it switches things up on the listener, right? People are typically used to hearing that super big epic drop, and if we can, hit them with something that's just effective but way more constrained, it'll make them be like, ooh, wait, what was that? So, really killer technique, really great track here, ND with jazz bar techno. I think to reiterate, let's just get like some melody going on earlier, bring up the volume of a lot of your harmonic elements a little bit more, and then bring up those drums so that they're cutting through. Right now, those fluttery pads are just kind of poking through a little bit too forward in the mix compared to everything else. All right. Guys, let's give it up for ND with jazz bar techno here. Super cool track. And who do we have up next? The Magic 2 arrangements is a drop at 1 minute 30. Okay, so maybe I'm finding... Oh, okay, no, that was the 1 minute 30 mark. I wanted to make sure that there wasn't like a section I needed to go back and listen to or something else of the sorts. So, yeah, really, really killer job here, ND. And up next, we've got Mike Beast Code with Velocity 2. I'm pretty sure I saw Mike hanging out in the chat, so what's going on? Also see we got Makoto Hinata who just swung by. What's good, everyone? If you guys are just tuning in, thanks for swinging by. Hope you guys are getting some good value out of this so far. We got still a good number of tracks to get through and about 20 minutes left, so I'm going to just keep this party going. Up next, yeah, Mike Beast Code with Velocity 2. Nice atmosphere hit right from the start. That high end gives us what we need for sure. Undeniably a strong groove between that kick and that bass too, like well done. I am hearing just a little bit of like the mid-range of these new chords. It's just a little bit too like kind of heavy in that mid-range, and it's conflicting a little bit with the upper end of that bass. So consider filtering out a little bit more of the low end in those chords. Now at this moment, you can turn off that EQ change because we no longer have the bass line, so there's not a buildup or a conflict, and instead, the body at this moment is welcome in these chords. Really cool textures. That snare came in a little loud. Okay, that was some cool sound design. We're gonna listen to that one again. That was a really cool trick. Did you guys catch how that snare kind of turned into the lead at the last moment there? Yeah, that put a smile on my face for sure. Mike crushed it with that. The one thing I would say for this is that's a little quiet. I mean, you can see kind of in the waveform when that snare first comes in, it like jumps up. So that snare to begin with, too loud. But then when it fades out right here, this whole section's just a little bit too quiet. I would say get everything in that pre-drop moment like 4 to 6 decibels louder, so that it fills up the entire stage as everything else cuts out. That'll like heighten your energy, heighten that tension, and really get people prepped for a super impactful drop right here. But honestly, like the sound design, the riding, whew, absolutely killer right there. Really cool groove, just cool pattern to this lead too. I think that like clap could come up just a little bit in volume. Oh, great transition right back into the lush atmosphere. I love how you had that reverb throw, and then as that reverb was fading out, that pad comes in smoothly. It's a really nice blending of like the textures out of the drop into the textures of this section. Really nice transition. So on this lead that's playing right there, that melody, get some nice high-end brightness, like get a coloring analog EQ, really boost up that high end, maybe add some like extra reverb or delay, make that like a super big and epic, ethereal sort of sound. Kind of just, I have to hear what goes on with this build and this drop. So that snare got introduced a lot better this time with that filter. It does end up a little too loud relative to everything else here still. For this second build to like kind of, you know, vary it up a little bit more from that first one, consider keeping that reverb throw growing and building all the way up until this final moment, you know, that pre-drop moment. Oh man. All right, really great groove, great track, great vibes. Biggest things, again, just focus on, you know, clearing out a little bit of space from the pads, getting those transitions really kind of big and full. And then getting those leads to cut through just a little bit more with some high-end coloring EQ. All right, really killer track from Mike Beast Code there. Up next, we've got Nebuchad with Nazare E. Let's see what we've got. I'm pretty stoked for this. He's been dropping some good tracks for us in some of these past Feedback Fridays. So let's see what we got going on right here. Great slow groove, awesome textures here. Everything's living in its own kind of space in the mix. We can hear things kind of bouncing around, and that's awesome. I think I would have liked to have like a little bit more high-end texture, like maybe just like a hit or some sort of FX thing, just to introduce the track. It took me a little bit of time to like really kind of adjust my ears to the sound levels and everything of it. It was just a little bit low and tonal to like really start a track. Really cool pan drum samples in here for sure. This is an awesome vibe. I am hearing just like a little bit of like mid-range and muddy buildup coming from that pan drum. So consider like scooping out the fundamental frequencies just a tiny bit. Maybe bring out the reverb on that vocal a little bit more. The texture of it's right where it needs to be. It's just a little quiet. You know, one other thing that just popped into my head that could probably help this track out a lot, take that pan drum sound and see if you can make it super stereo, either through something like the Haas effect, using the ozone imager, maybe layering and panning left and right. But that's gonna create some really nice space for the drums, some of these other textures like the vocal and stuff to live in the center of the mix. And then it'll also, by pushing those things to the side, create this huge sense of space. Awesome. Man, very nice. Awesome, guys. Let's give it up for Nebuchad here with Nazare E here. Up next, we have Any Key with What I Need and a shorter mix. Love this little logo. That's a cool, creepy smile thing. Let's see what we got from Any Key here. cool groove and cool textures from the start. The phasing and the distortion, that like crunchy, like overdrive, it's like a bit crushing sound almost. It's just a little bit too heavy. Maybe try like dialing back the dry wet on those. Yeah, the phasing texture, like that flanger phaser that's kind of across everything, just sounds a little too heavy, and it's taken out some of the thickness in body, especially from the drums. Man, this groove is just killer, though. It's like, I don't know if you guys can see me, like, I'm rocking in my chair. Like, this isn't just my body, like, my whole chair is going back and forth right now. Bring those vocals up in volume a little bit, get some reverb and some delay to echo out. They need to like really fill up that top end of the space that was previously being filled up by everything else there. Nice little panning effect there. I liked how that vocal kind of moved across that everything you want from me. That was really cool. So maybe like, I like that you have just that kick kind of echoing out. Like it made me be like, oh wait, where's this drop? It's gotta be coming here. On that final hit right before the drop, maybe also layer in a clap so that we're getting just like that one kind of like, hey, here's where that drop's coming. Yeah, I'd say bring up that vocal volume, take those like processing that phasey texture off of those drums, but just dial it back so that it's a very subtle effect, because right now we lack something that's like in our faces pushing that beat forward. Most of my groove is kind of coming from just like the bounce between the kick and these pads. Let's see what we got coming up in this final drop. Really nice drop here. Little bit of mud going on among those atmospheres, chords, and layers and stuff. See if you can carve out just a little bit of that mid-range. Awesome. All right, let's give it up for Any Key with What I Need. And next we've got Breslin with Perfect here. Another one, I think we missed this on the stream last week, so stoked that we got to it again this week here. Let's see what we got with Perfect. Really nice atmospheres and textures. My one complaint is that they're all in the center of that mix. So get that reverb and then get that piano like super wide and epic so it's like giving us a huge hug as we listen to that intro.
Gravity is off when I'm next to you. I'm staying out of trouble. Put me to the test.
I like the groove and the rhythm of that bass line. There might be a little bit too much kind of like pitch bending on it right now. It sounds a little bit off key as a result.
I need you by my side. I need you to stay. I can feel you when you're done.
And as a result, like that pitch bending is so drastic on that it ends up falling out of key with the vocal a little bit. So honestly, I would just take the pitch bending out. Really cool track here. So actually taking that pitch bending out of the earlier section of the track will also create more of a switch up, more contrast here, and I think that'll make the drop more effective too. Yeah, you know what, now that Kofu's dropping into the chat, it does sound like this was exported in mono. Like I'm hearing some phasing and everything is like right in the center of that mix. So maybe just double check, make sure that that mono switch is turned off if you've got it on, and otherwise try to like pan that out, spread it nice and wide here.
All we need.
Awesome. Let's see what we got kind of in this final transition.
When times are getting hard, don't push me away.
Really cool switch up here. I think the biggest thing is like, let's just focus on stereo. So whether it was, an accidental mono export or we need to, go back into the track, focus on getting everything nice and wide, because in the current state, it's just a little bit phasey and thin. And honestly, like that's the number one thing. The groove of this, the vibe of it's all on point. We just need to get those things full, wide, and like, nice and thick there. All right, let's give it up for Breslin with Perfect here. Up next, we've got Yaniv with Turn the Lights Out. So, those of you who have been stopping by know Yaniv's been a long-term kind of contributor and supporter to the Feedback Friday threads. He's come a super long way since he joined us here. And as of this past week, he's also just joined us in the masterclass. So we're going to be seeing just some insane amounts of growth coming from him in the coming weeks. So definitely keep an eye on what we've got going on here. This is Turn the Lights Out. Let's see what we got. Really love the groove. You have that like extra little pickup at the end of every 4 beats. Really nice. So at this moment, that track feels like properly nice and full. I might just like also have that cymbal to start the track because the high end felt just like a little bit empty. I love like how the delay is super wide on that bass. It creates a nice sense of space, but still keeps the core elements that are important nice and thick in the center. There is just a tiny bit of mud going on that bass, so maybe try carving out around that like 120 to 210 hertz range or so on this one. Awesome. Let's see what we got coming on near the end of this drop into the transition. So right there was a little bit of disconnect there. Maybe just kind of zoom in on your effects and stuff. Make sure that like as those first effects here are ending, that's exactly when that next crash hits. Because there was just that like moment of silence between there. Really nice atmosphere, really lovely vibe during this break. Maybe just throw some like ozone imager on some of those layers to spread them even wider. Really nice vocal coming in. There is a little bit of buildup going on at right around 400 hertz in that vocal. So maybe just like take out the fundamental frequencies a little bit and maybe boost the high end a tiny bit as well to help give that vocal a little bit more airiness, a little bit more lightness, and a little bit more presence in the mix. Ooh, epic build coming here. I'm stoked for this. Yeah, there we go. Way to go, Yaniv. So maybe just like dial back the reverb a tiny bit and add a little bit of extra saturation in there. It'll help just like get those chords on the sides a little bit more in your face, a little bit more energetic. All right, let's give it up for Yaniv here with Turn the Lights Out. Keeping it going here. We got about 5 minutes left. I can say, like, guys, we just aren't going to make it through everything. But like I said at the start of this stream, whoever we don't get to is now at the top of the priority list for next week. Just make sure you resubmit again next week here. So if you don't, submit again next week, I won't know that you've got a track up for review. So, if you're one of these people here, we've got like Star Delta, Jack Parker, some Numa, Nanny New King, Bell's Brothers. If I don't get to some of these later ones here, guys, just make sure you're resubmitting again next week. And like I said, you're going to be like first, second, third, fourth, the first ones to go up next week. Awesome. All right, here we go with Groovy G's Funky Oolug. Cool name here. Let's see what we got in other work in progress. Let's see what it is. Definitely some funk to this right off the start. Get a lot of saturation, maybe a tiny bit of slapback on that guitar, and then, that's going to get people hooked. That's going to like suck them into the mix. Great groove. Groovy G indeed. The one thing I'll say is like a lot of your drum textures have a decent tail and splashiness to them, and as a result, the drum groove doesn't feel quite as tight as it could be. Maybe consider tightening up that hi-hat splash a little bit so we get more of like a t as opposed to a ch, and that'll help give like the rest of that drum groove a little bit more pop. Bring those vocals up in volume, like a decent chunk. They're kind of tucked behind a lot of the like the bass line and a lot of those other high-end textures. This like little hi-hat that kind of comes in occasionally is a little bit loud compared to the rest of the percussion. I see DJ Blue might be dropping that in the chat if that's the same layer. See what we got kind of going on near the end of this track. You know, one thing I'd love to hear in here is a little bit more variation on that bass line. Because we have it kind of going throughout most of the track here, I think just an occasional change in note, maybe playing like an entirely different set of notes for a section will help keep it a little bit more fresh. Seeing from DJ Blue here in the chat, the muddiness is more noticeable on mono speakers. So any of those layers that are nice and wide, consider cutting out that low end, because that means when it's folding into mono, it's stacking on top of that bass and creating a little bit of buildup in that low end. Awesome. All right, guys, let's give it up for Groovy G with Funky Oolug here, or Olug, Funky Oolug, whatever it might be. Really great stuff here. Let's see. Oh, is DJ Blue Mr. Embarrassed Arts himself as well? Nice. Got a couple of, got him coming back here. Very nice. All right, so let's keep it going here. Up next, we've got Des Muldoon with Night Vision. Let's see what we got. Really cool intro and stuff. That little hit that came in right at this moment was a little bit too loud, so just bring that down in volume a few decibels. That'll help out. Maybe nudge that snare forward just a little bit. It sounds like it's just a little bit draggy to the beat where I want us to kind of be pushing things forward. So just take that whole snare across the entire song, nudge it forward in the beat just a tiny, tiny bit. So really nice textures coming in here. What we've got going on is like a lot of these elements, the melodic ones in particular, are kind of fighting for our attention, particularly that lead versus these main chords. Jumping off of something we just talked about in the chat, which is like how to clear up a little bit of mud, try considering some side chain on your chord and atmospheres to that lead melody. And it needs to be a fairly tight side chain with a fast attack and a fast release, so that anytime that lead plays, basically, that background just gets out of the way for a brief moment before coming back in. Really great groove here, great vibes. Let's skip ahead to the last section here. I love the vibe right here, like that kind of like distant, like bell, like tube hit that's off to the side. Really nice. Maybe bring that up in volume just a tiny, tiny bit. Awesome. Guys, let's give it up for Des Muldoon here with Night Vision. Lovely track. And with that, we are at the top of the hour, so I am going to have to call it on today's stream. So, you know, just quick shout out to everyone here that didn't get to here. We got Jay Renz, I think like he's a first time submitter. Same with Chuz and Buzz here. John Holland, the Bells Brothers, Natty New King, Numa, Jack Parker, and Star Delta. Thanks for tuning in if you guys were here. Sorry we didn't get time to get to you, but like I said, you guys are now at the front of the list for next week. I've got your names already set aside, so definitely tune in if you're wanting some feedback on these tracks. And as a reminder, just make sure you're submitting it in next week's Feedback Friday thread as well, because I use every fresh week as my list of songs to kind of pick from. So guys, with that, we are going to go ahead and wrap it up. If you guys heard some of the songs that you liked here today and you're not yet part of the Academy, I'd highly recommend checking out some of the courses. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I actually started my production career as an EDM Tips Academy student back when Will first launched his brand. Like, you know, here's a testament to what it can do, right? Like, I learned so much, and here I am now sitting behind the camera here, giving you guys feedback on here. So if you're new to these streams, check out some of the courses that we've got linked in the comments of this video. If you are already around, or if you are ready to take that leap into some really serious production, I'd highly encourage you to check out the 8-week production masterclass that we've got. I'm not gonna lie, it is intense. You've got to be willing to put in the effort, but if you do, we have seen just some phenomenal results coming out of everyone that has gone through it. We're seeing lots of students get signed to some of their favorite labels, especially like within the past few weeks. Things have just been really taking off. We are consistently making changes and improving the course, and you get this kind of feedback like this live feedback, except way more in depth on a more regular basis. So check it out if it's something that might be interesting to you. And if you are going to go for it, definitely remember, check out this code, use the Neil200 at your checkout. You're going to get $200 off of the course. Obviously a pretty good chunk of change, something to help out. So again, yeah, if you're interested, browse around through it. Feel free to reach out to either Will or myself. We'll be happy to talk about it. You know, this is a lot of our life's work. We're super stoked about this class. We love sharing this information with you guys. We'd love to see some more of you in there. And again, just remember to use that code Neil200 at checkout to get a full $200 off. Guys, with that, we're going to go ahead and end this stream. Thanks so much for tuning in again. I have such a blast just listening to your guys' music. It's really cool because not only do I get a ton of, you know, different types of inspiration, but I get to see how you guys are growing week to week, and it is genuinely inspirational. It's pushing me to sit in the studio, work even harder. I know the same can be said for all of you guys tuning in. So with that, thanks one more time. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Friday and a great weekend ahead. We'll catch a lot of you in the Facebook group and otherwise on the streaming